Hi, in this video we want to take a look at defining a static route for pfSense that will allow the pfSense firewall router to be able to communicate behind our Windows RTR router and pass packets to and from our DevNet. So if we look at that on our topology diagram here, we're reminded that routers know about interfaces that are directly connected to them, but they don't know about routers that are behind other routers. And so that's the problem we have here. If we go look at our client machine right now, we'll find that it's not able to communicate out to the internet. The pings fail. Okay, so that's the problem we're trying to solve, is to allow the host, the Linux host and the Windows client on our DevNet network to be able to communicate out to the internet. I chose my DC1. This would also work on the RTR machine, and I'm opening the web browser and going to my pfSense web configuration utility. The way that we do what we need to do is we go into the System tab and we go down to Routing. What we see here initially is the default route to the internet that we provided at installation. What we need to do is we need to create another gateway, not a default gateway, just another gateway. So the interface for this gateway will be our LAN interface, IPv4. Let's call it DevNet Gateway. The address that we're going to use for this is internal on our RTR machine, 172.16, in my case, .18. Yours would be different, .0. Oh, excuse me, .2. We give a specific IP address here. Okay, description, DevNet Gateway. So let's double check our work here before we save it and be sure we're good. LAN interface, IPv4, we named it. We identified what IP address on that interface, on our LAN interface, 172.16.18.2. That's the one side of my RTR machine. It is not our default gateway, it's just another gateway, so we're good. Okay, so we've done that. We'll go ahead and apply that. Having done that, we can move on to the next step, and that's to define the static route. So that's done on the next tab over here. So we come over here, we currently don't have any static routes defined, and we go to add. Okay. The destination network is the network address of our DevNet network. So for me, that's 192.168.18.0, and that's a /24 value. Okay. And I'm just going to identify this as my DevNet network. Again, double checking our work. Network ID /24. The gateway, we almost got that one wrong. So the gateway I need that 172 address, which I called my DevNet gateway. So what I'm saying is to get to this network, static route, to get to this network and go through this IP. That makes sense. All right, and we'll go ahead and apply this change. So we've done two of the things that we need to do. The last thing we need to do is we need to enable a rule, enable a rule, create a rule, enable a rule in the firewall that will allow traffic from that 192.168 network to pass through the firewall. So we go over to our firewall settings and we go to rules. And this is going to be a LAN rule. Where is the traffic coming in from? It's coming in on the LAN interface. So we have our default rule, which covers our 172 network, and it is specific to the 172 network. So what we need to do now is we need to go in and create a rule on our LAN interface, so firewall rules, LAN interface, that will allow traffic packets to come from that 192 network through our RTR router onto the 172 network, and then out through the pfSense firewall router gateway. So we go to add the rule. It's an allow rule or a pass rule. The interface is the LAN interface, IPv4, and for protocol, we're going to allow any protocol. Down here under source, we're going to specify a network as a source. I'm going to use the network ID to define our DevNet network. 192.168, my case, .18.0, and again a /24. Okay. Description, this is our allow rule from DevNet. Now, one thing that we did on our other allow rules, we did specify that this rule is only to allow traffic during work hours. And so let's come down here to the schedule and apply the same thing here. Okay. Or workday. Okay, so we already created the schedule and we're using it on our other rule, but now we apply it to this rule. So let's take a look. Okay, so we've got IPv4, we've got our source network, everything allowed, but limited to the workday. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this, and then it's a good idea to reboot, and I'll reboot, and then we'll come back and we'll go to the client machine and test and see if we now have connectivity from DevNet. So I'll pause the video. Okay, our firewall has rebooted, and we come in here to our default landing page, and we can see both interfaces are up. Let's go now over to our client machine and see if it's able to communicate. So we're back on our, this is the Windows 8 client. You could also use the Linux machine if we've installed that. So we're going to do ping by IP address. If we have DNS set up, then of course we could use that. But for basic troubleshooting, we're going to use the IP address. And there we go. If we were to trace route this, I won't do this to keep the video short, but we would trace route it. We would see that the path would take us out through the router. So there we go. Go ahead and wrap up this video and keep moving forward with our lab.